Hello everyone, Logan here, and today I am launching a new series called Localized. Basically, this series will be comparing the changes between the Japanese and international releases of the same game. I'll mostly be skipping over, or at least very quickly going through, the obvious changes such as Power Region games running at 50Hz instead of NTSC 60, and the frame rate. With that said, today we'll be comparing Yume Kōjō's Doki Doki Panic to Super Mario Bros. 2, and then Super Mario USA to both of the former. So without further ado, let's get started. First, let's have a little bit of background. It was 1985 and the Famicom game Super Mario Bros. Was on fire and Nintendo knew it. So later that year, to capitalize on the market, Nintendo released Vs. Super Mario Bros. To the arcades. Vs. Super Mario Bros. Was basically the NES game, but they changed up the levels to make them a bit more difficult. This change was made for two reasons. One being that a more difficult game will result in people buying more credits, which in turn means more quarters in Nintendo's pocket. The second reason is that Nintendo found if people easily beat the original game, then they'll have a lot more fun with a bigger challenge. When Nintendo started to develop Super Mario Bros. 2, they decided to take cues from Versus and made the entire game as brutal as possible. Super Mario Bros. 2 was released for the Famicom Disk System in 1986 and then sent to America for review. After it came to America, a staff member reviewed the game and found it too brutal for the Americans, resulting in Nintendo of America's president, Minoru Akawa, calling Nintendo of Japan to request a more suitable sequel. When Nintendo of Japan got word of this, they freaked out. All of their development teams were already busy on other projects, so they thought, instead of making a new title, why don't we recycle an old one? And so the look for a suitable title was on. Their answer came from a game developed by the original Mario team, named Yume Kōjō Doki Doki Panic. Yume Kōjō Doki Doki Panic translates to Dream Factory Heart-Pounding Panic, and is a game created for the Dream Factory 1987 Festival, which celebrates a TV show of the same name. The festival's organizers commissioned Nintendo to make a new game for the celebration. Nintendo accepted and created a Mario-esque game featuring 4 playable characters with different attributes, vertical and horizontal levels, and a grabbing mechanic requiring you to throw something at the enemy to defeat it. The game already had so many Mario references, such as the Star Power-Up and the POW Block. Nintendo thought if they changed the game a little, and then changed the characters to Mario, Peach, Luigi, and Toad, then they would have a suitable sequel. And with the edits to the game done, it went to store shelves in 1988, with the PAL version coming a year later. Something ironic is that Nintendo of Japan took the edited game and repackaged it again as Super Mario USA for Japanese audiences. Imagine how a kid would feel if he or she had Doki Doki Panic, and then decided to try Mario USA, finding out that it was basically the exact same game. What a slap in the face. But I digress, and now with the history out of the way, let's see what changed between the versions. Probably the most obvious change between Doki Doki Panic and Super Mario Bros. 2 is the characters. Doki Doki Panic features 4 characters from the Dream Factory TV show. First was Imogen, who had balanced speed, lifting, jump, and super jump. Imogen was replaced by Mario. Next is Imogen's girlfriend, Lena, who had poor speed and lifting, but was able to hover for a short time. Lena was replaced by Princess Toadstool, or Peach as she's known as now. Papa had high speed and lifting, but a very bad jump and super jump. Papa was replaced with a blue Toad in Mario 2. Lastly, but definitely not least, is Mama, who had a very high jump and a super jump, but was slightly slower than Imogen. Mama was replaced by Luigi, but something to note is that Luigi was actually made to jump slightly higher than Mama could, which allowed Luigi to skip certain places and levels if a jump was performed correctly. Another change in the characters is that if the B button is held down in Mario 2, it will allow the characters to run, where running wasn't a thing in Doki Doki Panic. The final major change is that in Mario 2, when a character is on their final hit point, they shrink down to mimic the original Mario game. Now let's talk about general changes. The story was changed for obvious reasons, and therefore the cutscene is replaced by plain old text. The title screen is different, as well as the bonus stage. In Doki Doki Panic, the game requires you to beat the game with every character to get the real ending, but it includes a save system and unlimited continues. Well, unfortunately, these features are removed due from being moved from a floppy disk to a cartridge, and they could have added a save value or a password system, but they decided it would be simpler just to remove the requirement and have one ending. On top of this, they added limited continues to up the difficulty a bit. Also in Mario 2, the credits were removed in favor of listing all the enemies in the game. For some reason, the grass was made to be a lot more vibrant. It used to be like more of a black shade, and now it's pretty bright red. The magic lamp to go into Subspace was changed to a magic potion, and the game's waterfalls were slowed down, likely to reduce seizures. The crystal at the end of every level were given a new animation, not present in the original Japanese print. The actual Doki Doki Panic Carnival had a wide variety of masks worn, and so Nintendo added them into the game as stackable blocks. When converting the game to Mario 2, they changed the blocks to mushrooms to fit into the Mario world better. The 1-ups were changed from the character's face to a 1-up mushroom, which is kind of a shame because that was a really cool touch in the original game. It's kind of like Mega Man in a way. In Doki Doki Panic, there was a giant heart that was used to add an extra hit point to your player. In Mario 2, it was fittingly changed to a super mushroom. In Japan, the phrase bomb, like B-O-M, is used as an onomatopoeia for a boom sound. When the game came to the US, they must have not known that, as they humorously made the explosion say bomb, B-O-M-B, instead of boom. In World 7, the turnips had a new texture. The Gear machine at the final boss was very slightly changed. And last for the general changes is that the giant bird face at the end of a level was originally a mask instead of a bird. Now let's move on to the enemies. The enemy Phanto was given a new texture, seemingly to make it seem a bit more menacing. The Albatos enemy was changed to have a 7-frame animation instead of its old 2-frame animation, which is a nice touch in my opinion. The Ninja enemy was actually made easier in Super Mario Bros. 2 by having a fixed jump height, where in Doki Doki Panic, it could actually just jump around at random heights. Some enemies in Mario 2 were actually given their official names, which is kinda weird why they just didn't name them in the Japanese release, but oh well, I guess. And lastly for the enemies is that in Doki Doki Panic, there were actually 3 Mauser fights instead of 2, with the third being an albino Mauser with spikes underneath. The boss basically was the same as the other Mauser fights, but it had 6 health instead of 3. In Mario 2, the enemy was changed to a unique boss named Claw Grip, who only had 5 health. Before we move on to the levels, I completely forgot about this, like I thought I had it recorded, but I guess I didn't. But yeah, this is supposed to be in the general category, but they actually changed a throwable object known as a big head to a Koopa shell to take out racial stereotypes. And I think you can see why. Anyways, now on to the level section. Next, a few of the levels were actually altered. In World 5-3, it was made to where the warp in World 7 was harder to access. And there was the 5-3 Mauser fight I mentioned earlier, and the 7-1 shortcut is a lot easier to pull off than in Doki Doki Panic. The last major changes between Mario 2 and Doki Doki Panic are sound effects and the music. There are a lot of examples of this, so I'll just play a few of the biggest ones here. With the sound effects covered, let's briefly mention Mario USA. There isn't too many changes between this and the Mario 2 release, but I figured I might as well just cover it here. The game itself is, like I said, is almost completely the same as Mario 2, but it does have a different title screen, and the Japanese names for the enemies are used instead of the American names. And that is basically all the changes I could find between the two games. I had a lot of fun making this video, so I do want to continue this series alongside my main series. So if you have any suggestions of what games I should do, please leave them down below. And I'm thinking maybe doing Pokemon or something, like I think that would be good for this series, but I don't know. Also, for future videos in this, I will try to have it all a bit more organized and flow smoother, but the background was a little bit long, and there was nothing I could really do about that. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday. Goodbye.